Hey, welcome to the microphone, Dr. David Klein of the Stages of Life Institute. He is with us 5 days a week right here on the Resource Hour. And, of course, we're making these recordings available to him so that they can put them on their website sometime very soon. And about that portal, we'll talk about the new portal at some place, in the next, maybe in the next week. But one of the things I like to do is we get together and we put these things on tape, so to speak, is we often talk about things that you're hearing about every night when you're watching TV. And here's one that's always on, and that ads for constipation. Everybody's got a very expensive route to kind of loosen things up, so to speak. So can we do it for less money and more effectiveness?
Well, just remember, don't put a lid on it. God, I love that commercial. It works a little something like this, okay? I was at a meeting not too long ago where the speaker got up there, and he's a pretty reasonable guy, all things considered, and he gets up there and he asks, what's the normal number of bowel movements a person's supposed to have per day? And people raise their hands, and the consensus was once per day. I raised my hand, I say, you're wrong. I said, you're absolutely wrong. He goes, well, what's the number? I said, 3 per day, 21 per week. And he goes, well, that's insane. I said, no, it isn't insane. That's physiology. I said, that's the way it is when you were young. That's the way it is for dogs and cats that are healthy, and that's the way it's supposed to be for us. But how does bowel movement work? Okay, your body has a series of brains, not just the big one between your ears, some bigger in some people, some smaller in others, but you have multiple brains from the top of your head down to where the sun doesn't shine. They're called ganglia. And these things control the way your body functions, whether it's your heart rate, whether it's your breathing, whether it's your biliary tract dumping bile into the small bowel. It's like putting detergent into your washing machine. It could be the way the peristalsis works for your small and large bowel. That's how the food and poop are passed along. These ganglia operate in a particular kind of a way, and they tend to shut down under certain disease states and certain medications. But it works something like this. Every time you eat, the stomach distends. There's something called a gastric colic reflux. This reflex has to occur, okay? So you eat something, you're going to want to poop. And oh, by the way, watch your dog and cat because they do this. Every time you feed them, you better let them out. You better take them for that walk. Take them for that constitutional. Why? Because of this gastrocolic reflex. Very, very important function. Well, as humans, what we do is we decide that that's inconvenient. So we train our gut to act more like a suitcase. It starts to distend, and we start getting sick. Now, you couple that, and I say, well, once a day you should go to the bathroom. If you don't, you should do something about it. If you're only going to the bathroom once a day, you've already got a problem. Why wait for it to get worse? It gets much worse than, well, gee, historically, I've only gone to the bathroom a couple times a week. Then you are really, really sick. Ooh. Okay, really, really sick. And I don't care what you think. I don't really care what your mama told you. I don't care what your aunt says. And especially, I don't care what your hairdresser tells you. It works a little something like this. You're supposed to go potty 3 times daily that's once after each meal, if not more frequently. If you do that, you're a whole lot healthier than you would be otherwise. And once you start getting the body to head in that direction, there is a series of changes that you go through, some very, very pleasant and some not so pleasant, but it's like any other change. Nobody likes change. Is what it is. So do you think you have opiate-induced constipation? We have this $1,500 a month medication for you. Joy and Rapture. There are cheaper, better ways to get this job done. Once you figure out why it becomes an issue, you will know how to fix it, prevent it, and deal with it for as little as perhaps $1 a day, not that $1,500 a month stuff. That's crazy. $50 a day is a lot of money for most people. I know it would probably leave a mark on my checkbook. I rather prefer 80 cents to $1 a day.
Wow.
So what is constipation? Constipation is when you don't poop enough. Okay, so it all depends on who you're listening to. If you're listening to me, it's 3 times a day, twice a day minimum, 3 times a day most likely. But if it's this once a day after some coercion, then you've got an issue. What causes this? Okay, a lot of time it's medication, and people say, well, gee, it's got to be water, so I'm going to drink lots and lots of water. Okay, well, let me give you a little clue there. Your kidneys are the responsible party for water balance in your body. So if you overload the water into the system, it comes out as urine, not as poop. Okay, well, what about if I take fiber? Well, I'll tell you what, 95% of what comes out your tailpipe, okay, is not fiber, it's bacteria. Okay, it's very, very interesting how this works. It's largely a big bag of bacteria. So what does it take? How did you become constipated to begin with? And this is going to be the news alert. Flash, flash, flash. Okay, it is not a water deficiency. It is not a fiber deficiency. It's not necessarily a problem of your bacterial microbiome. You know, the probiotic nonsense that we all love to take and should take actually has nothing to do with that. It has to do with an oil deficiency. Oh, how interesting. Now, how could an oil deficiency, and this is going to make a lot of sense in a moment, how can an oil deficiency result in constipation, for God's sake? Understand this, okay? And now if you can figure this out, you're going to be 2/3 of a length ahead of your doctor. The colon has one function alone, okay? And that is to take water out of the poop. And it does it beautifully, okay? It's the easiest thing in the world for it to do. So you can add lots and lots of water. It doesn't make any difference. It's already desiccating your stool. That's why it's hard. That's why it's firm, and so on and so forth. It's because it's doing its job. When you poison the colon, it doesn't end well. What it can't do is it can't absorb oil. So when you want to get things to move along in a north to south direction, the way that you do this is by increasing non-absorbable oil in your diet. Or even better, and this is the way I prefer to do it, is to have my patients take absorbable oils but exceed the body's ability to absorb it. Now, why would you do this? Because odds are you're not taking enough of the omega-3s anyway. Odds are you're not taking enough, even close. So if I told you that I wanted you to increase your omega-3 fatty acids at a cost which would far exceed in the non-absorbable oils, then you would find yourself doing a little bit better, but at much greater expense. So what we do is this. We use fish oil. We take it up to the point where I know that you're going to need it to feed your heart, to feed your brain, to feed your vasculature. What is that? It's 1,500 milligrams of the combined EPA and DHA daily. That's not the size of the capsule. That's the content of the capsule. Very, very important. If you're smart enough to get going out there and buying krill oil, it corresponds into 20 of those capsules. If you're buying krill oil, you're wasting your money. Okay, you have to take way too many to get the job done. A good fish oil, 2 capsules a day will do it. 20 of those little suckers. Okay, but what else do you do? Now that you've satisfied your heart, now that you've satisfied the need of your vasculature, this is when you add in something called CLA. Now, when you take CLA after you've started your fish oil, and you don't take it necessarily concurrent with it, okay, the CLA will pass through your goozle, okay, making it from your teeth to your tush and lubricating the entire passageway. When this happens, good news. On top of that, you add a little push to it. What do we use? Flaxseed oil at bedtime. Not ground flaxseed. If you're using ground flaxseed, it actually works against you. Okay, but flaxseed oil. What's that stuff cost? About $11 a month. It's very, very cheap. What does CLA cost? About $15 a month. The combination of these two oils, okay, will have you running to the commode like a youngster. What does this mean? It means that all of a sudden, your entire GI tract becomes one large luge. Now, remember the luge? Okay, at the Winter Olympics, that's where the idiots jump into the sled that go down at 80, 90 miles an hour and hope not to die. Okay, well, that's kind of what your GI tract is going to start to do. It's going to start to pass very, very quickly. You know, you're going to find yourself having to look for that funny-looking door called the commode until your body learns how to readapt. Now, here's what happens over time. If you've been pooping once a day or less frequently, your colon will start to expand. It'll stretch out like an old sweater. Okay, marvelous metaphor. In order to get that sweater to shrink back to a normal size, it takes 2 things. It takes a hot dryer, okay, and a little bit of time. Well, we can't put you in a hot dryer necessarily, but when you start dumping out the colon, over time the colon will shrink back. When this occurs, you will start to feel much, much better. It takes about a year for this to occur in most people, sometimes a little bit longer, but your risks of cancer diminish as well. Why? Because if you're not leaving a carcinogenic material in your colon for prolonged periods of time, it's not there long enough to start these cancers. Very, very interesting. So it's not only important with regards to your weight, it's not only important with regards just to the way you feel in general, but it actually is beneficial with regards to your longevity and beneficial with regards to preventing really, really bad diseases. So the combination of fish oil, CLA, flaxseed oil, and if you need a kick in the tush, we add something called enteric-coated aloe, which then gives you a little bit of propulsion to blow the weeds out.
Now, if I could only find all of those things assayed, really pure, all in one stop, with shady parking, not far off the interstate. Robin, do you have a solution for me?
I do. If you can get yourself moving, come on down to the Stages of Life. We're located in Longwood at 1917 Booth Circle. That's right off of I-4 and 434. Our phone number is 407-679-3337. Our website is stagesoflife.net. Office hours Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. And we're also on Facebook at Stages of Life Medical Institute.